Dean Chapman.
I first went to the Thai-Burma border by chance in 1990, and I was going to spend a night in a refugee camp, and I ended up spending a month. And from that, I travelled across the Soviet Union and back to the UK. And by editing the work, I realised there was a project which I could both educate myself photographically, politically, and in terms of communicating with people, as well as producing a product which may be used as a tool of advocacy, create a historical document, all these kind of things. And actually, I delivered, which many people who go to Burma don't deliver. By doing the work on the Karenni, who historically were an independent country. The British never colonized the Karenni state of Burma. They had different treaties with them, but they never colonized it. And it was only when Burma was granted independence in 1948 that Karenni was thrown in with the rest of Burma. And so the Karenni have been resisting Burmese domination since 9th of August 1948. So the situation there is dire. When I first went to the refugee camps, there were under 5,000 refugees, Karenni refugees. There are over 27,000 now. That's from 1990, over 15 years. The number of refugees, official refugees, has swelled fivefold. But there are unofficial refugees who work in farms, who work anywhere they can just to earn money, and they're called migrant workers, but actually a lot of them are refugees. And it doesn't just go for the Karenni, it goes with the Karen, with the Shan, with many other ethnic nationalities and minority religious groups. Muslims as well are fleeing Arakan state up on the Bangladesh border to go to Thailand to work. So when I started this work, there were no migrant workers, very few migrant workers in Thailand from Burma. Now there are over 1 million migrant workers, so-called migrant workers, who go to earn a better living in Thailand, even though there are many possible difficulties in doing that. They still go there to earn about $1 a day, and so they have to live, and then they send money back to Burma. And actually this is keeping many rural communities and urban communities going, is these people going to work outside in Thailand especially. In terms of human rights in the country, it's probably only worse. It stands alongside North Korea, but North Korea starves its people to death, and Burma, the military junta, is trying to do that as well. Food insecurity is a major issue, and that's why the underlying reason for this uprising is because people are getting to the point of starving. And when you know you're going to starve to death, then you start fighting. And so that's what started to happen. The monks who have been leading the demonstrations, they've noticed that communities, in the morning, very early morning, when the sun comes up in Burma, the monks all go out of their monasteries and collect alms in their bowls. And all that food is the only sustenance they have to live from. So when the people don't have food to give to the monks, then the monks know that the people are not eating. So from being able to feed themselves 2 meals a day, the monks are now lucky in some places to get 1 meal a day. So that's why the monks are getting hungry as well as the communities being hungry. And all of this, especially pushed by the rises in fuel prices. Petrol and diesel went up by 100%, and gas went up by 500%. Suddenly people couldn't afford to take a bus to go to work, to earn money, to come back and try and feed themselves. So if you think of your income, and 70% of your income had to be spent on just buying food to eat, just think what you can do with 30% what's remaining in terms of scale. That's what it's like for many people in Burma. But it's been, for the poor in Burma, and especially in the ethnic minority areas, it's been like this for over a decade. I remember hearing reports coming out of Karenni State in 1996 of a famine happening there. And the Catholic Church did a secret report on this, and they covered it up. They didn't make it public. People were starving. People were living off the water that you wash rice with. They couldn't eat the rice, and so the water that was taken from it, that's the only carbohydrates they were getting. That was in 1996. And the situation has got worse and worse. Hence, so many people leaving Burma to go to Thailand, to go to China as well to try and get work. I photographed that at the end of 2004. So the situation is absolutely desperate there. The work I've been trying to do is, I will find subjects such as HIV/AIDS now, which is a major issue regarding help for Burma, but the Burmese military don't actually acknowledge that it's a problem. They wouldn't even acknowledge HIV less than 10 years ago, and then their funding 2 or 3 years ago was something like $14,000. It was minuscule. And so that's why the main strains of HIV across Asia are all coming from Burma, because it produces heroin. So it's all going out, all the way to Beijing, all the way into Russia, all the way into India. All of these are coming from Burma because of the drugs, because of women have to sell their bodies now to be able to make a living, to be able to feed their children. All these things didn't happen so much previously, and it's just getting worse and worse. And that's something that I've been trying to photograph, trying to document since 1990. I first went to Burma in 1995. And I've been there 6 times, like I said. And all of this work has been self-funded. No funding body has wanted to give me money to do this work. So I've gone there and I've done it myself. I've paid for the travel, I've paid for the accommodation. If I stay in a refugee camp, I pay the people to feed me and to stay in their house. I do not take it for granted that they can give me it. Yeah? So I've done this work. I've lived in the jungle for 2 years. I've traveled in Burma widely, almost to every state, trying to document what's been going on. And when I go to the media in this country, for years I've been going to all the major newspapers, trying to sell this work, and it hasn't been published. They just say there's no interest. People do not want to know about these people. And then suddenly, the people, it's the actual Burmese people themselves that are getting the pictures out. It's no one else. And that's what's so admirable, that they're taking these chances. There were reports in downtown Rangoon. You'll read reports about the Traders Hotel. It's actually called locally the Traitors Hotel because it was built with drugs money. Lo Si Hang actually funded that building. I photographed armed Burmese soldiers providing security for that building when it was being built 10 years ago. They went room to room trying to find foreign journalists to stop them getting the news out because they knew it was coming out. As you all know, they executed a Japanese photojournalist there 3 days ago. So they do not care. They do not care about international opinion.
On the campaign at the moment that we're doing with Zimbabwe, we've got a similar problem. Effectively, the top of the government is not listening internationally. Yeah. And the method that we're using is to send letters, nice friendly letters, to the kind of head of police stations. And the idea there is that by talking to the police, one, you appeal to their humanity, yeah, and then they're less likely to actually, should we say, enforce the torture instructions coming down from above. Is that type of process likely to work in Burma?
Those people who may be teachers, who may be policemen, traffic policemen, people who are actually involved in the civil infrastructure, they know if they step out of line, like many of them did in 1988, they disappear. They just vanish. And so just for them to show any form of dissent is a form of opposition, and we all know how that's received. So it looks absolutely desperate, and when it comes down to what can we do, I think it's a case of pressure. You pressure the politicians to pressure the international community to keep the pressure, and you pressure the media because next week something will happen. There'll be such as in Darlington, there'll be some kind of vote for an elected mayor, and then they're not interested in this yesterday. They didn't want to put this in their paper because they wanted to report on the mayor. Now, next year, no one will remember the mayor, but this will still be going on more likely. So that's the way the media works, and we have to remember the media are usually privately owned companies, owned by a very few who have politics, certain politics they want to try and promote. So it's a case of trying to get this work out, get the message out, and keep pressure. Once the pressure goes down, then the military will ride it out. And every time they get a concession, such as China and Russia vetoing the vote at the United Nations Security Council in January, they feel emboldened. After that, they started to arrest more people. After that, there was a sort of small clampdown happening, and that's continuing now. And the minute the UN, when Gambari goes out and he says, everything's okay, democracy is going to be moving forward, that's absolutely bullshit. Yeah, there's no two ways about it. It's absolutely nonsense. That words are cheap for these guys. Politicians will try and pin their colours to Aung San Suu Kyi the first chance they get, but what have they actually done to physically try and support her? Yeah? Just ask them, what have you done? And quite often they've done absolutely nothing other than trying to look good. Yeah? So I think it's a case of politics from the people upwards, as is happening in Burma now, because Aung San Suu Kyi has been arrested for 12 years next year, and in different forms. All of the different 88 generation students, they've been arrested or they're in hiding. They can't do it, so it's a case that people have to do it. And it's people like me and you who have to actually keep supporting them and keep encouraging them and making sure that no one does forget about them. And that's personally in terms of helping them and telling the politicians and the media, we want to know about these people because they're important. The situation's important.